Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to Local News Live. We do this each weekday as a service to the community here on AOC Community Media, led by a wonderful group of volunteers, volunteer readers. What we do is read articles from the Acadiana Advocate, local and state news. If you'd like to be involved, you're welcome to join us as a volunteer. Just email info@aocinc.org. Lots of ways to catch the program. We're on AOC Channel 1, which is Cox 15, LUS 3. You can also stream us at aocinc.org/watch, as well as Cypress Street Radio on your phone and your car, aocinc.org/CS Radio. I'm Mandy Ayo. I'll be your reader for today. We're going to get started. We have a lot to cover. We'll have some public service announcements in a little bit. We'll also cover the Zodiac and this day in history. But first, Edwards, no one should be complacent about Zeta. This is an article by Will Centel. Governor John Bel Edwards said Tuesday that despite the lateness in a seemingly endless hurricane season, residents of southeast Louisiana should heed the warnings about Tropical Storm Zeta. No one should be complacent because it is October and it feels like hurricane season should be over, Edwards told reporters. I know we are asking folks to manage a lot, but I know our people are going to be focused. The governor made his comments roughly 24 hours before the latest storm is expected to make landfall Wednesday evening. Winds of up to 75 miles per hour are in the forecast east and south of the New Orleans metropolitan area. Zeta's impacts in the Baton Rouge and Acadiana areas are expected to be minimal, but public officials urged people to be prepared. Edwards said high winds remain the top concern, but forecasters are also leery of possible storm surges, locally heavy rain, and possible tornadoes. Although the storm has slowly moved eastward, the governor said any westward movement would put much of New Orleans in line for significant impact. He noted, as he often does, that about 1/3 of hurricanes arrive outside the path projected in advance by forecasters. On the plus side, the governor said the storm is relatively fast-moving, around 14 miles per hour now, and expected to be about 20 miles per hour at landfall, and that trims the chances for damaging rainfall. Edwards on Tuesday requested a pre-landfall federal declaration of emergency in a letter to President Donald Trump. The impact of heavy rainfall, coastal flooding due to storm surge, damaging winds, and potential tornadoes will pose a serious threat to the lives and property of the people of Louisiana, the letter says. The governor on Monday declared a state of emergency, which allows state officials to make preparations and to assist local governments as they respond. If the current track holds, Hurricane Zeta will be the third hurricane to make landfall in Louisiana in 2 months, and I am incredibly hopeful that President Trump will quickly approve my request for a federal emergency declaration, as he has done before, Edwards said in a statement released after his news conference. We are already coordinating with our federal partners to respond to Zeta, as we have since the start of the COVID pandemic and throughout the recovery from Hurricanes Laura and Delta, he said. Around 1,400 members of the National Guard are on duty for storm-related chores. The preparations for Tropical Storm Zeta, like others before it, are taking place amid the coronavirus pandemic that has put a new twist on storm planning. The state on Tuesday reported 885 new cases of COVID-19, the illness caused by the virus, and 18 additional deaths, or 5,666 in all. In his letter to Trump, the governor said the state has already spent about $900 million on the pandemic. Testing for the virus was suspended Tuesday and will be suspended also on Wednesday in 5 areas because of Zeta: New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Acadiana, the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and South Central Louisiana. The Lake Charles area and other parts of southwest Louisiana are still in the early stages of recovering from Hurricane Laura, a Category 4 hurricane that struck on August 27th, and Category 2 Hurricane Delta, which arrived 6 weeks later. A total of 3,606 state residents remain in shelters because of Hurricane Laura. Those shelters include 7 hotels, with 5 in New Orleans and 1 each in Baton Rouge and Lafayette. The governor's office will share updates about Zeta by texting LA Gov to 67283, that's LAGOV. and for phone calls by going to Smart 911. Edwards cautions residents to be careful using generators after the likely loss of power in some areas. 9 people died in generator-related accidents after Hurricane Laura. Hurricane season lasts until November the 30th. In a bid to rededicate arts funds is on the ballot. Proposal sends taxes to fire protection. This is an article by Claire Taylor. Lafayette Parish officials want voters to rededicate a parish-wide property tax approved for arts, culture, and recreation in 2017 to fire protection in unincorporated areas and to parish roads and bridges. The rededication is on the November 3rd ballot. Parish Councilman Kevin Naukan supports the measure, which he said will provide more money for fire protection in every fire department in the parish, including the city of Lafayette. Naukan said on Tuesday residents have asked what the Create, Culture, Recreation, Entertainment, Arts, and Tourism and Related Economies initiative has done, especially outside the city. Kate Durio, who ran the Create initiative until Josh Guillory was elected mayor-president, said several tools were created that would set the groundwork for investing Create funds in programs that promise a good return on investment. Some of those foundational tools, she said, were ready to launch, but were halted when Guillory took office in January and abolished the Create program. In November 2017, voters parish-wide approved a 25-cent mill property tax for Create, part of a ballot proposition that included rededicating money to drainage. The tax generates about $563,000 a year. The proposal on the November 3rd ballot would rededicate 0.175 mills to fire protection in Lafayette Parish and 0.75 mills to roads and bridges in the parish. Property owners in the city of Lafayette already pay taxes dedicated to providing fire protection in Lafayette, and they also pay the Create tax and would continue to pay the tax if it is rededicated to parish fire protection. In 2018, the former City Parish Council created a new fire district for unincorporated areas of the parish, and in December 2018, asked voters in the district to approve a 10 mil property tax dedicated to providing fire protection for unincorporated areas. Voters defeated the tax by 363 votes. The fire rating for unincorporated areas rose from a 5 to a 6 after the tax was rejected, Lafayette Fire Chief Robert Benoit said, which increased insurance prices for property owners not in a municipality. Benoit and Naukan said the perception that the tax, if rededicated to parish fire protection, would not benefit the city of Lafayette is false. At one time, Benoit said the parish paid the city $100,000 a year to respond to fire calls in unincorporated areas. That has dwindled as parish funds have dwindled, falling to $10,000 a year a few years ago, he said. The Lafayette Fire Department and departments in all the parish municipalities will share in the rededicated tax, Benoit said, because they all cover fires in the unincorporated areas. When the volunteer fire departments in unincorporated areas are able to hire firefighters and purchase equipment, he said it will also relieve the cities from having to respond. Durio has doubts about that, but added, even so, it doesn't negate the fact that those in unincorporated areas voted down the ability to pay for their own fire protection. It's irresponsible to ask city residents who are already paying for their own protection when they're not willing to pay for it themselves. If the rededication is approved, Naukan said the Create tax would no longer exist, but money remains in the fund that can be used for some expenses. Eventually, though, that money will run out. I am definitely and always will be in support of arts and culture, said Naukan, a professional musician. But at a time when we're struggling economy-wise, instead of proposing a new tax, let's utilize the funds to benefit the entire parish and pave some roads. Create, Naukan said, never lived up to what was promised, especially in unincorporated areas of the parish. Durio said much was done to lay the groundwork, but she said just as a major project, a compilation of thousands of artists, musicians, venues, philanthropists, nonprofits, and such with an online portal accessible worldwide was set to launch in January, Guillory held it up. The city received a National Endowment for the Arts grant to help fund the project, she said, which could be in jeopardy if the project never launches. It cost about $100,000 to create the portal and for software licenses for Salesforce to bring a business approach to arts and recreation, she said. I believe that the failure to launch this portal is being used as a political weapon to show Create wasn't doing anything, but they're holding the keys to make it useful, Durio said. We have a responsibility to publish this site. And speaker, Humanity, Adaptability, Keys to Business, Innovate South conference is being held virtually. This is an article by Adam Daigle, Acadiana business editor. Entrepreneurship in the era of COVID-19 revolves around one thing: relationships. It involves being authentic with prospective clients or partners and forming connections with them. Kelly Campbell, a New York-based agency transformation coach, said businesses that are succeeding in the current climate are the ones that can show their humanity and remember that you may never know what's happening behind the scenes of that prospective client. Campbell is one of 4 keynote speakers during the 3-day Innovate South conference, which advertises itself as being open to all creatives, visionaries, forward thinkers, and entrepreneurs. Sessions start virtually today. In the current climate, you have people who are really scared, said Campbell, a former digital marketing agency owner and host of a bi-weekly podcast who does about a dozen speaking engagements a year. They may have lost a loved one to COVID. They may be experiencing grief. If businesses are having a relationship and conversation with people, they have to understand this is an unprecedented time. You're dealing with a lot of racial strife. There's a lot of upheaval. The more you can develop a rapport with the person on the other side and meet them at their humanity, you're going to win the business deal. Here's another key for businesses to succeed in the COVID era: being able to pivot successfully, and she noted not just pivot for pivot's sake. The pandemic has had its winners, delivery services, grocery stores, and losers, sit-down restaurants, large retail stores, but Campbell told the story of one of her clients, the top in-person scavenger hunt company in the country. In business since 1999, it did hundreds of hunts in person, but few virtually. Once the pandemic hit, the business shifted to almost all its hunts being virtual. The result? Revenue is up about 40% since last year. And how it got there was simple. It fell back on its core value of connecting people when people needed it the most. One of their values was connection, she said. They said, what is our reason for being? If our reason is connection, we have an opportunity before us. When the world pivoted, their company was there. They were able to meet the needs by going back to their core values. The people who are the most successful, they are realizing the impact of all these things. Sessions with Innovate South will offer a collaborative space to share and learn from peers during 3 days of workshops, panel discussions, keynote presentations, and pitch competitions. It will also feature 2 pitch competitions this year. The Get Started Medical Pitch Competition, presented by Cox Business in partnership with Ochsner Lafayette General and Opportunity Machine, which includes a $20,000 cash prize, and the Invest Acadiana competition, which is focused on funding projects within Acadiana Opportunity Zones and connecting local Opportunity Zone projects with investors. Having attended past conferences and learning so much great information from other business owners, I'm ready to give back to our entrepreneur ecosystem here in Lafayette with information and action items that have been crucial to our company's continued success, said Ben Johnson, founder of Techno Technology Services and conference presenter. As a technology nerd, I'm more comfortable behind a screen, so I am pumped that Innovate South has gone digital this year. It's 9:15. We've got more local news. Eunice High closes temporarily amid staff virus outbreak. This is a staff and KATC TV report. Eunice High School will be closed temporarily because of an outbreak of COVID-19, KATC reported. The St. Landry Parish School District learned last week that a staff member at Eunice High School tested positive for COVID-19, according to Eunice High Principal Mitchell Fontenot. Since then, 4 additional EHS staff members have tested positive for COVID-19. In a letter to parents, Fontenot said the Eunice campus closed at the end of the day Monday out of an abundance of caution to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of all members of the community and the school. Staff are not allowed into the building as it goes through cleaning, and all students will receive remote instruction, and all UNIS staff members will work virtually beginning Tuesday. In-person learning is expected to resume on November 4th. The only people who need to quarantine are those who have been personally contacted by the Louisiana Department of Health or the school nurse. Any positive COVID-19 results for students or staff should be reported to Nurse Callie Schust at 337-457-5895 or Nurse Sylvia Brown at 337-948-3646. Fontenot said there is no evidence that schools in the UNIS area have had an increase in virus cases, nor is there any indication that higher transmission rates in these neighborhoods are due to school buildings being open. The Louisiana National Guard and Office of Public Health will be providing COVID-19 testing from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Friday at the UNIS High School parking lot. In the Air Force, mosquito spraying is ongoing. Residents alarmed by planes after schedule altered. This is a staff report. Last week, it was announced that the U.S. Air Force would be assisting Southwest Louisiana with mosquito control in the aftermath of Hurricane Delta. 2 Air Force C-130 Hercules aircrafts from the U.S. Air Force's 910th Airlift Wing, based in Youngstown, Ohio, were scheduled to spray Lafayette Parish on Sunday, according to a statement from Lafayette Consolidated Government. The operation was scheduled to begin around sunset Sunday and continue for up to 5 hours. During that time, an Air Force C-130H, modified with the modular aerial spray system, would disperse the pesticide Nailed. However, some Lafayette Parish residents expressed concern when they saw the low-flying planes over the parish again on Monday night, when there had been no indication it would be continuing after Sunday. At a Tuesday news conference, Jamie Angel, spokesperson for Lafayette Consolidated Government, said LCG was also surprised by the planes. He said the governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness had not notified city parish officials of the additional spraying. He apologized to any residents who might have been outside at the time and were alarmed by the low-flying aircraft. Each plane can treat about 120,000 acres in one mission, a news release said, noting aerial application of insecticide is the most effective way to rapidly reduce the number of mosquitoes in an area without endangering people, pets, or other animals. Angel said in a statement that about 105,000 acres were sprayed Monday and that the remaining 31,000 are to be sprayed Thursday night, weather permitting. Because of Hurricane Zeta, there was no spraying scheduled for Tuesday or Wednesday. This isn't the first time military planes have assisted with mosquito control following a hurricane. A similar mosquito air raid happened in the Houston area following Hurricane Harvey in 2017, according to local media reports. Since Delta made landfall on October 9th, mosquito control efforts have ramped up across southwest Louisiana, including in Acadiana. Earlier this month, Lafayette Consolidated Government announced there would be increased mosquito spraying in the area with assistance from neighboring parishes in the aftermath of the storm. Applications by the C-130s are also planned in Acadia and Jeff Davis parishes. Okay, we're going to take a quick look and see what's going on in our public service announcements for today. The Festival of Words Virtual is coming up. It's November 6th and the 7th. The Festival of Words celebrates another year with 3 amazing authors and 2 days of memorable events. The festival will take place Friday and Saturday, November 6th and 7th, virtually. This year includes nationally recognized authors, Louisiana Poet Laureate John Warner Smith, poet Erica Meitner, and graphic memoirist Robin Ha. Festival events include creative writing workshops for students and the community, a community stage for open mic, and drive-by poetry, in which youth give dramatic presentations of festival authors' writings. The Friday night event features a poetry presentation by John Warner Smith and Erica Meitner, and Robin Ha reads from her work graphic memoir, Almost American Girl. On Saturday, drive-by poetry performers from the Magnet Academy of Cultural Arts will recite works by the featured authors. There will be an open mic and multiple creative writing workshops, which are open to the public. For more information, you can check out festivalofwords.org or contact Martha Garner at 337-804-2482 or fowmartha@gmail.com. Okay, back into the news. And Hurricane Laura, nothing left. Many evacuees ordered home find houses uninhabitable. This is an article by Sam Carlin. In mid-October, a month and a half after Hurricane Laura pounded southwest Louisiana with the stiffest winds to hit the state in a century and a half, more than 1,300 evacuees who were taking refuge in government-provided hotels received a message. It was time to return home. The texts and letters slipped under the doors of hurricane victims in hotels in Louisiana and Texas were part of an effort by the state and federal government to get more evacuees back home to Lake Charles as the longer-term recovery effort from Laura and the lesser but still damaging Hurricane Delta continues. But for many of those evacuees, the messages were a source of consternation. Some suspected their homes were uninhabitable, and they were being told to travel several hours to go live in them or to otherwise get the state to change its assessment and confirm the homes weren't fit to occupy. Since then, 571 people have requested a reassessment, challenging the government's initial classification that their homes had minor or moderate damage. A little over half have since had their status changed to major damage or destroyed, designations that will allow the evacuee to return to a hotel provided by the state. Many had to take a state-chartered bus from New Orleans or Texas to Lake Charles, and if the reassessment was successful, they took a bus back to Alexandria's mega shelter temporarily before heading back to New Orleans to a hotel. Gloria Jack, 73, a Laura evacuee staying in a New Orleans hotel, received a letter in mid-October telling her to return home. Her daughter, Vanessa Field, accompanied her on the trek back to Lake Charles. They found ceiling tiles strewn about her apartment's living room floor after the double whammy of Laura and Delta caused much of the floor of the upstairs apartment to fall into Jack's unit. The moldy stench throughout the two-story home was unbearable for longer than a minute or two, even when wearing a mask. Thick black sludge oozed out from underneath the oven. The state fire marshal's office had determined the home was livable during an initial assessment, which triggered an abrupt conclusion to Jack's 2-month stay at the Marriott Hotel in New Orleans. She learned this from a letter slipped under the door to her room on the evening of October 19th, Jack said. They didn't knock on the door or anything. I put my light on, and I saw that paper. I said, "Where the hell did that come from?" Jack recalled. Jack, who uses a wheelchair, spoke to a reporter outside her home on Mill Street in Lake Charles while Field unloaded her belongings from a shuttle. "Ain't nobody can go up in there. That smell is killing me," Field said, referring to her mother's home. This is what they sent her home to. After a reassessment, the government agreed Jack couldn't live in the home and belonged in a hotel, but Field said that would have required taking a bus to the Alexandria mega shelter before going back to New Orleans. After an exhausting few weeks during which she witnessed a shooting in New Orleans, Field said she and her mom were sick of traveling around the state. Instead, Field's son picked them up in Lake Charles and took them to his house in Baytown, Texas, where they've been staying for about a week. "It's not home, but it's home for now. It's better than being in New Orleans," Field said. "Everybody gets tired of that back and forth." Governor John Bel Edwards said last week the push to get people out of hotels and back into their homes was necessary to stay in compliance with rules for federal aid. Laura happened nearly 2 months ago, Edwards noted, and while the federal government is supporting the sheltering of thousands in hotels, it's not going to last forever. But the governor conceded it's an arduous process to figure out who should be living in their homes and who should be in hotels. The state fire marshal does an initial assessment from the outside, and if the emergency determines a home has either minor or moderate damage, the evacuee is told to return home. If it's major, the evacuee may continue to stay in a hotel. The fact that we still have Hurricane Laura evacuees in hotels tells you that we have made an unprecedented effort to shelter people after the storm, Edwards said. "We've never done this before, but there comes a time when you have to wind this down to the degree that you can. One of the things I will insist on is we're going to work with those individuals who believe their home is not habitable in good faith to make sure they're fairly treated. And for those individuals who cannot go home yet because their home was destroyed or has major or severe damage, we're going to make sure we have non-congregate sheltering for them going forward." The initial assessments, which led state officials to order nearly 1,400 people in hotels back home, were what the state fire marshal's office calls window assessments. Spokesperson Ashley Rodriguez said inspectors couldn't go inside and, because of fallen debris and fences, often couldn't even go around the entire house when conducting those assessments. The officials would walk, drive, or in flooded areas boat by the houses and take a picture of the home or business to get a rough assessment of the damage. Once residents got back to their homes, they were able to request assessments, and as of Tuesday, 571 had done so. Of those, 237 were upgraded to major and 56 were upgraded to destroyed, which in those cases gave the resident the option of returning to a state-provided hotel. Another 253 were still designated as minor, and 25 had a wrong address, according to Rodriguez. Ricky Montet, Director of Emergency Preparedness at the Department of Children and Family Services, which handles the sheltering of evacuees who need a place to stay, said one of the challenges the agency is dealing with is communication. The department has said no one will be left without a place to stay. The agency has tried to get in touch with landlords in Lake Charles and gather more information about the living situation of evacuees, Montet said, but has often had trouble getting details from the storm victims. In some cases, the agency has discovered that many of the people boarding a bus from New Orleans to Lake Charles are homeless and need to be rerouted to the Alexandria mega shelter to get connected with services. It makes it very difficult to manage something of that magnitude when they're not talking to us, Montet said. We do everything in our power to not put them on a bus and to keep them where they're at. As of Tuesday, 3,606 evacuees were still being sheltered by Louisiana, the vast majority of them LARA evacuees, in 7 hotels, 5 in New Orleans, 1 in Baton Rouge, and 1 in Lafayette. That number is down from 18,213 at the peak. Most have gone home, according to the agency. A total of 47 evacuees were in the Alexandria mega shelter, which serves as a reception center of sorts. Montet added that the mega shelter, a mammoth 5-acre structure that officials have outfitted to allow for social distancing and mandatory masks amid the pandemic, is a valuable resource for people to get connected to services. People can get in touch with federal or state officials there to get food security, housing, health care, and other services, he said. Damage to the home on 8th Street in Lake Charles that Wendell Jones shares with his wife and 3 sons was not as severe as others in the battered city, but mold had taken over the walls and ceiling to the closet in his bedroom, and one of his sons' rooms reeked of mold. After being told by the state to return home to live in the house, Jones said he and his wife, who suffers from congestive heart failure and asthma, went to their daughter's house nearby. Despite the state's instructions, he said, the landlord ordered them to vacate the house for 3 months so it could be cleaned out. Because mold does not impact the structure of a building and can be remediated, it is not sufficient by itself to cause an upgrade in assessment to major damage, according to the Department of Children and Family Services. That was included in a frequently asked questions sheet provided to evacuees. Jones, who is a 57-year-old disabled veteran, contacted the state about getting in a hotel again, but he was wary of going through the Alexandria mega shelter because his wife's doctor advised she shouldn't be around many people. The agency said the mega shelter is safe for people to stay in for short periods, saying its massive size allows for distancing and mandatory masks. The shelter also has a medical special needs unit. Now Jones' daughter's house, where he and his wife are staying, is about to be unlivable as it undergoes repairs. He has filled out paperwork with the Federal Emergency Management Agency to try to get renters assistance in the meantime. We're between a rock and a hard place now, Jones said. It's 9:28. This is the period in the program where we do some of the fun things. We'll cover today in history, the zodiac, and we'll come back to some state news and sports. Today in history. Today, of course, is Wednesday, October the 28th. It's the 302nd day of 2020. There are 64 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on October 28, 1962, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev informed the United States that he had ordered the dismantling of missile bases in Cuba, and in return, the U.S. secretly agreed to remove nuclear missiles from U.S. installations in Turkey. On this date in 1858, Roland Hussey Macy opened his first New York store at 6th Avenue and 14th Street in Manhattan. In 1886, the Statue of Liberty, a gift from the people of France, was dedicated in New York Harbor by President Grover Cleveland. In 1922, fascism came to Italy as Benito Mussolini took control of the government. In 1940, Italy invaded Greece during World War II. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter and Republican presidential nominee Ronald Reagan faced off in a nationally broadcast 90-minute debate in Cleveland. In 1996, Richard Jewell, cleared of committing the Olympic Park bombing, held a news conference in Atlanta in which he thanked his mother for standing by him and lashed out at reporters and investigators who depicted him as the bomber, who turned out to be Eric Rudolph. In 2001, the families of people killed in the September 11th terrorist attack gathered in New York for a memorial service filled with prayer and song. In 2002, American diplomat Lawrence Foley was assassinated in front of his house in Amman, Jordan, in the first such attack on a U.S. diplomat in decades. In 2013, Penn State said it would pay $59.7 million to 26 young men over claims of child sexual abuse at the hands of former assistant football coach Jerry Sandusky. 10 years ago, investigators with the President's Oil Spill Commission said tests performed before the deadly blowout of BP's oil well in the Gulf of Mexico should have raised doubts about the cement used to seal the well, but that the company and its cementing contractor used it anyway. The cement mix's failure to prevent oil and gas from entering the well was cited by BP and others as one of the causes of the accident. 5 years ago today, Dennis Hastert pleaded guilty before a federal judge in Chicago to evading banking laws in a hush money scheme. A court filing later revealed allegations of sexual abuse against Hastert by at least 4 former students from his days as a high school wrestling coach. Hastert ended up being sentenced to 15 months in prison. 1 year ago today, the S&P 500 closed at an all-time high for the first time in months. The NASDAQ composite was also near a record. Today's birthdays: jazz singer Cleo Lane is 93. Actor Joan Plowright is 91 today. Actor Jane Alexander turns 81. Caitlyn Jenner is 71 today. Actor Annie Potts turns 68. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates turns 65 today. Rock singer, musician William Reed of the Jesus and Mary Chain is 62 today. Actor Mark Derwin turns 60. Actor Daphne Zuniga is 58. Actor Lauren Holly turns 57 today. Talk show host, comedian, actor Cheryl Underwood, 57 as well. Actor, comedian Andy Richter turns 54. Julia Roberts, 53 today. Country singer, musician Caitlin Carey turns 52. Singer Ben Harper is 51 today. Country singer Brad Paisley turns 48. Actor Joaquin Phoenix is 46. Actor Gwendolyn Christie is 42 today. Singer Justin Guarini of American Idol is 42. Prop singer Brett Dennen turns 41. And actor Charlie Sameen is 40 today. Okay, we're going to take a look at the zodiac. First, I'm going to take a quick drink of water. All right, let's take a look at our horoscopes for today. If you're a Scorpio, use discretion and avoid an emotional situation. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Knowledge will be your passage to new beginnings. Education will be crucial. Sagittarius, home is where the heart is, so make it a place of comfort and convenience. You can improve your relationships with honesty, kindness, and equality. Romance is in the stars. Capricorn, be careful what you say. If you act in haste, you will have regrets. Include the people you love in your plans and be prepared to take advantage of whatever comes your way. Aquarius, put more thought into how you earn your living. Don't jump into something prematurely for financial reasons. Make personal growth, knowledge, and fitness priorities. Pisces, don't let confusion set in. Too many choices will leave you wondering what to do next. Head in a direction that will encourage positive change and less stress. You'll get fired up quickly. Aries, sorry. Got ahead of myself. You'll get fired up quickly if you let your emotions take charge. Rethink your plan before you start something you cannot finish and concentrate on what you can do to improve your life. If you're a Taurus, before you make a move or life-changing decision, consider your motives and the consequences of your actions and do what's right for you and your loved ones. Gemini, personal improvement is favored. Refuse to let someone interfere with your plans or personal life. An important relationship may require you to make a change. Cancer, be observant, not vocal. When dealing with someone who can be volatile, it's better to let things unfold naturally. Keep the peace and avoid turmoil and interference. Leo, how you handle matters will determine who listens to you. Don't follow someone's lead. Do your own thing and chart a path for better days ahead. Start a new fitness routine. Virgo, an investment looks promising. An updated look will help convince others that you are ready to be proactive. Be a leader, not a follower, and good things will transpire. And finally, Libra, personal improvements will lift your spirits and encourage you to be more disciplined when it comes to your health and well-being. Let go of things and people that drag you down. The horoscope, of course, is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. It's 9:35. We'll take a look at funerals today in the Acadiana area. George Frederick today at Fountain Memorial Funeral Home at 1 p.m. this afternoon. Let's get back into our state news. State police head steps down after 3 years. Agency has been mired in recent controversies. An article by Jacqueline DeRobertis and Sam Carlin. The head of state police will retire this week after more than 3 years in charge, stepping down after a series of recent controversies, including the death of a black man in state police custody that is now the subject of a federal civil rights investigation. Colonel Kevin Reeves took over from former Superintendent Mike Edmondson, who resigned amid fallout from a number of scandals. Reeves' last day will be Saturday, Governor John Bel Edwards' office said. A new leader will be named in the coming days. I am deeply grateful to Colonel Reeves for his decades of dedicated service as the consummate law enforcement professional committed to serving and protecting the people of Louisiana. Public safety has always been his highest priority, Edwards said in a statement. Reeves was named in 2017 as the interim head of state police after Edmondson's departure. Later that year, Edwards removed the interim tag, tapping Reeves as the 26th superintendent of an agency where Reeves had worked for 30 years. He oversees thousands of troopers and employees at several Department of Public Safety and Corrections agencies. It has truly been an honor to serve as superintendent of the Louisiana State Police and deputy secretary of the Department of Public Safety, Reeves said. I am forever grateful to Governor Edwards for having the faith and confidence in me, and more importantly, for the support he provides the men and women of the Louisiana State Police. The agency has faced criticism in recent weeks and months over a range of incidents, from trooper misconduct to the in-custody death of Ronald Green, which has gained national attention. The governor's office said Reeves had been planning his retirement since last year. Asked Tuesday at a news conference if either the governor or his office told Reeves it would be a good time to retire, Edwards said no one had. I didn't lose any confidence in Colonel Reeves, Edwards said. The governor said Reeves told him last year before the gubernatorial election that he planned to retire near the end of the first year of Edwards' second term, 2020. Reeves started working for state police as a trooper on motorcycle patrols in Baton Rouge in 1990. He later worked in Monroe as a squad leader for the Mobile Field Force and as a case agent and undercover agent on narcotics investigations and operations for the Bureau of Investigations. He was described as a safe pick to head the agency in 2017 after Edmondson stepped down amid investigations into questionable overtime charges and out-of-state travel by high-ranking troopers. Reeves said at the time he saw himself as probably a lower-profile person than Edmondson and noted he would have to adjust to interacting with the media and the public in his new role. He quickly set about imposing discipline on troopers involved in the high-profile scandal that had occurred prior to his arrival. And in the following months, he also suspended a statewide highway traffic enforcement program and launched a criminal investigation into 3 other troopers accused of claiming extra duty hours they did not work. He earned praise for his swift action, with many approving of his new reign at the agency to squash corruption. While Reeves sought to neutralize controversies from the Edmondson era in the early months of his tenure, he also encountered criticism for failing to diversify upper-level management positions in his first year as superintendent. Critics acknowledged that bringing more women and minorities into the agency had been a decades-long struggle, but they argued that community policing could not be effective if the law enforcement body did not reflect the people it served. The intervening years were comparatively quiet for the agency. One trooper in Thibodaux was suspended for using law enforcement databases to track his ex-girlfriend. Another in New Orleans was accused of raping a 16-year-old girl. Reeves spoke publicly about both incidents, providing statements and quickly addressing discipline. Notably, a Baton Rouge trooper was placed on administrative leave in 2018 after she shot a man fleeing a traffic stop, injuring him in the back, but the outcome of the case remained pending for months. Other incidents that happened in this period wouldn't surface until 2020. By the end of 2019, allegations of systemic breakdown emerged, beginning at the agency's training academy. 3 troopers were transferred after superiors concluded an exercise went beyond normal parameters and caused significant injuries to several cadets involved. Months later, one trooper was demoted when the internal investigation closed. Until the recent protests against police brutality began, the agency remained largely unscathed in the beginning of 2020. However, after the death of Trayford Pellerin, a black man killed by Lafayette police in August, activists started to call for more transparency into the state police investigation of his death. State police investigate all incidents in which officers shoot civilians in the line of duty. That role has received more scrutiny as the national protests against police brutality ramped up, particularly for cases in which white officers have injured or killed black men. In September, a letter emerged revealing a trooper had used a racial slur against a colleague several years prior and failed to be appropriately disciplined, prompting an apology from Reeves on behalf of his agency. And shortly after that, toward the end of the month, the story of Ronald Green came to light. Green was a black man who died in state police custody in early 2019. Reports of the murky circumstances surrounding his death sparked protests, demands for accountability, and the release of body camera footage from the night of his death. State police initially blamed Green's May 2019 death near Monroe on a car crash at the end of a high-speed chase, but an attorney for Green's family members told the Associated Press that body camera video of Green's encounter with state police shows troopers choking and beating the man and dragging him face down across pavement. State police and Edwards have refused to publicly release the footage, citing ongoing investigations. In a 27-second audio clip of body camera footage obtained by the AP from one of the responding officers, Master Trooper Chris Hollingsworth can be heard telling a colleague, "I beat the ever-living F out of him." Graphic pictures of Green's body released by his family show deep bruises to his face and cuts to his head. State police waited more than a year to discipline Hollingsworth, who died in a single car crash last month, just hours after learning he had been fired over his role in the incident. No other troopers who were on the scene of Green's death have been publicly reprimanded. In early October, the trooper from the 2018 shooting during a traffic stop in Baton Rouge was indicted and arrested after her case went to a grand jury for a decision. The next day, it was revealed that Reeves' son, Trooper Caleb Reeves, rear-ended another vehicle while on duty in Monroe. The crash killed a child and teen in the back seat. Kevin Reeves promised when his son joined the agency in 2017 that he would not receive special treatment, and the superintendent said any decisions about disciplinary actions, transfers, and promotions would be run through his chief of staff. Activists who have previously held protests outside state police headquarters held another one Tuesday evening after the announcement of Reeves' retirement. They said his departure didn't change anything. Because Colonel Reeves resigned, that does not resolve the issues, said Jamal Taylor of the Village 337, a Lafayette activist group. The tapes of Green's death need to be released, and a federal investigation needs to be done because of the cover-up of the death of Ronald Green. It's 9:45 in other state news. Cassidy agreed to debate only with all 14 of his opponents. This is an article by Tyler Bridges. 6 years ago, Bill Cassidy's opponent for a U.S. Senate seat complained that he wouldn't participate in enough debates. Cassidy's opponents can't get him to debate even once this year as he runs for re-election as a heavy favorite. It will be the first Senate campaign in Louisiana since 1998 where the candidates didn't debate, reported Melinda DeSlot, a veteran Baton Rouge-based scribe with the Associated Press. I think he is afraid and he's ashamed of his record, Shreveport Mayor Adrian Perkins, his most visible Democratic rival, said at a recent candidate forum skipped by Cassidy, organized by the Press Club of Baton Rouge. Cassidy did not respond to 2 interview requests for this article. He told the newspaper 2 weeks ago that he hadn't received a formal invitation for a debate, and sources with knowledge of the discussions say, however, that Next Star Broadcasting tried to organize a debate but dropped the idea after the Cassidy campaign said the senator would appear only if all 14 other candidates also were invited, even though only 4 of them are actively campaigning. An event with more than 10 candidates would be a logistical headache, especially with the need for masks and social distancing, said Dr. Richard Oberhelman, director of the Office of Global Health at Tulane University. With that number of candidates, it would make a lot more sense to do it virtually, but in that scenario, no candidate would get more than a few minutes to speak. It also would limit Cassidy's chances of committing a gaffe, the fear of any front-runner. Cassidy campaign spokesperson said the senator missed the press club event, which took place only 6 miles from his home, for the same reason the sources said he didn't agree to a Next Star Broadcasting debate. Senator Cassidy believes all candidates should be allowed to participate in the forum so that everyone has an equal voice. Therefore, he will not be participating due to the absence of a defined selection criteria as well as the arbitrary exclusion of the majority of the field, the spokesperson Ty Bofferding said in an email. Cassidy has not attended any forums with the other candidates. If he did, they could discuss their differences on the Affordable Care Act, President Donald Trump's tax cuts, and the proper governmental response to the coronavirus, among other issues. Cassidy also hasn't been inviting the media to cover campaign events, although his campaign did make him available to the media on Tuesday in Lafayette. Bofferding did not respond when asked if he could identify any other campaign events to which the media had been invited in recent weeks. Cassidy also has not responded to a request from Jim Inkster to appear on his Louisiana radio network, perhaps the best-known political radio program in the state. On Tuesday, Inkster said Cassidy is running a campaign as if he were in a witness protection program. Cassidy did appear last week with Newell Normand on WWL-AM in New Orleans, but only for 10 minutes, not long enough for him to take calls from listeners. In an email, Bofferding listed 10 other interviews with Cassidy that week, including 5 with TV stations, 4 on the radio, and 1 with the newspaper. Senator Cassidy continues to travel the state, listening to the people of Louisiana, and takes questions from the press on a regular basis. Bofferding wrote, "To be sure, candidates throughout the country have cut back their in-person campaigning because of the coronavirus. A prominent exception is Cassidy's close ally, Trump, who has been campaigning before big crowds nearly every day of late and facing criticism for it." Politico reported last week that 3 Republican Senate candidates in the South who are favored to win, Cassidy in Louisiana, Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith in Mississippi, and Tommy Tuberville in Alabama, all have opted not to debate their opponents. Republicans are famous for not wanting to debate if the polls are showing them ahead, said former U.S. Representative Charlie Melanson, a Democrat who did get then U.S. Senator David Vitter, a Republican, to debate him once in the 2010 Senate race, which Vitter won handily. Actually, it was a Democrat, then U.S. Senator John Breaux, who refused to debate in 1998, the last time no debate was held in a Senate race in Louisiana. Melanson said the public loses out when people can't see the candidates going head to head, laying out their policy prescriptions and spelling out differences with their opponents. It's Civics 101, Melancon said. The people deserve to know who their candidates are, what they stand for, and if they stand for anything. Debates are about talking about policy, where we are now, and how we can move the country forward. 6 years ago, Cassidy was a U.S. House member poised to knock off the three-term Senate Democratic incumbent, Mary Landrieu. Rob Menace, a retired Air Force colonel and Republican who was more conservative than Cassidy, also ran. Landrieu and Menace appeared in 2 debates together. It's 9:49. We may have time for another story or two. Let me just grab some water. Okay, our final story here this morning is going to be a sports story, and then we will move on to a couple of public service announcements. All smiles. Special teamer Wiggins has plenty to be happy about after Cajuns win. This is an article by Kevin Foote. It was 3 days after UL's memorable 24-20 road win over UAB, and fourth-year junior linebacker and special teams stalwart Tanner Wiggins still had a huge smile on his face. There were many reasons for him to be happy. He and the rest of the Ragin' Cajuns relished the opportunity to honor former assistant coach DJ Looney's life by putting his name on every jersey during the victory in Looney's hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. And on Monday, UL punt returner Chris Smith was honored as the Sun Belt's Special Teams Player of the Week. Wiggins played a role in that 100-yard kickoff return. The 6'2", 227-pound former Central Catholic of Morgan City standout also blocked for punter Reese Burns on his 74-yard boot that helped ice the win. In general, it's just fun to be a former walk-on on a successful team that emphasizes special teams like the Cajuns do under special teams coach Robbie Disher. And making this season more fun for Wiggins is he missed the entire 2019 season with a knee injury. It's a good feeling knowing that we call them game changers, so you're really a game changer on the field at that time, especially with big plays that could happen, Wiggins said. There are a few of us where our emphasis is really on special teams. Every time you go on the field, there's something that could really change the game on. For some teams, talking about the kicking game is really just something to say, but not for the Cajuns. There's a method to Coach Billy Napier's practice of calling the special teams units game changers. The kicking game has played major roles in at least 3 wins this season: 2 return touchdowns at Iowa State, a game-winning field goal against Georgia Southern, and the plays against UAB last week. Smith's kickoff return for touchdown turned a 13-3 game to 13-10 in a hurry right before halftime. It's awesome, Wiggins said. Chris does a great job. Chris, Eli Mitchell, Trey Ragas, they all do a great job behind me, and it's a good time blocking for them for sure, because if you get that one block, they can definitely make something shake, every single one of them. Chris is just doing a great job this season. It's a good little experience whenever you finally get your block. You get a kick out and you look down the field and he's racing towards the end zone. Eric Guerra tried to do it as well with a 37-yard punt return to the UAB's 38 with the game tied in the fourth quarter, but a holding flag called it back. Then Wiggins played a role in Burns' amazing 74-yard punt downed at the UAB 6 with 2:17 left to play. I've never seen that type of punt before, Wiggins said. Reese does a great job in practice and in games, especially for a game winner as clutch as that was. It's a good feeling, especially when it's clutch like that and the game is on the line and you really need a big play on special teams. With the Cajuns' kicking game, success isn't a fluke. It's all part of a well-designed plan. I think what you've got right now is you've got an unbelievable culture when it comes to special teams, Napier said. Coach Robbie Disher has really done a good job of positioning the players to have good success, and then we've got good specialists in general. We've got to keep that trend, and the way you do that is you have really good preparation. When Wiggins arrived on campus as a walk-on in 2016, special teams play wasn't as big a part of his football DNA. I was more defensive-oriented, he said. I played special teams in high school, but it definitely wasn't as much of an emphasis in high school than it is over here. It definitely has changed me and motivated me. That's my specialty. It's definitely different. It's good that it's such a high priority for this coaching staff and for the players as well. It's a good feeling knowing that you can go on the field and change the game at any time. Wiggins played in 4 games in 2017 and then in 9 in Napier's first season 2 years ago. He suffered a knee injury 2 weeks before last season's opener against Mississippi State. He worked as hard as anybody I've ever seen to come back from an injury, Napier said. I think he really loves to play. Tanner is one of those original heartbeat guys from year one, Napier said. He started as a walk-on. He was not even a factor. I mean, this guy was a scout team defensive player. He was on our job taker group. He just showed up every day, was kicking butt and taking names. Finally, we said, hey, put him in the game. Eventually, he became a four-core guy that first year before getting injured in training camp before year 2. It's 9:54. That is just about all the time we have for this morning. Yes, that is all the time we have for this morning. If you do want to send a public service announcement, we would love to air it on our channels and here on Local News Live on Cypress Street Radio. You can email us at info@aocinc.org or visit us aocinc.org. Check out how to get things on the message board. You can submit items there. We would love to have you be a reader on the program. This is all volunteers every single day. We're doing this from our readers' homes right now. So all you have to do is have an internet connection and a computer to be able to log in and join me on a Google Meet and read from a Google document. Simple as that. This is a great service for the community, especially for those that are visually impaired, illiteracy impaired, or people that just don't have access to the long-form news in this fashion. You can email us info@aocinc.org. Once again, this has been Local News Live. We do this weekdays at 9 a.m. here on AOC Channel 1, which is Cox 15. LUS 3, streaming at aocinc.org. We're also on Cypress Street Radio. You can take us along on your phone, in your car, aocinc.org/CS Radio, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Just look us up, AOC Community Media. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning. Have a great day.